I'd like to welcome everybody to Keystroke Live. Today we're talking about end-of-year procedures, and these are good things that will even carry you throughout the year. Primarily we're going to be talking about the variance module. Usually at the end of the year people want to know what the value of their inventory is for tax purposes or and that sort of thing. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Just a little reminder on Keystroke Live. It's the same Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, same place, same login information every week. And the topics change from week to week. And the first Wednesday of each month is with our President, Michael Gebb. So with the variance module, it's primarily used to adjust the quantity on hand of your inventory. It can be for a physical inventory count where you're actually counting everything that's out there. It can be to change your quantities because of theft or breakage or spoilage, something like that. It could also be used for purchasing, but it's not recommended. Keystroke's purchasing module is a great way to track your purchases, and it can adjust your costs. But some people do like to use it for purchasing. It also gives you a paper trail when you do account or adjust the quantity on hand. By default, Keystroke doesn't make those quantity fields available because we'd rather you use the variance module so you have a recording or a report of what was changed, and you can even give it a reason why you've changed it. Also, this can link to your accounting package if you use the accounting link. The variance module is accessed from Database Manager under the Special menu. And when you're first getting started with this, it's very important to look at the parameters, especially things like including the allocated or layaway quantities in your variance. If you do sales orders or you do layaways and those items sit on the shelves or whatever until they're ready to go out the door, and you're going to be counting those items even though they're on a sales order or a layaway, then you do want to include those quantities in your quantity on hand that you see in the variance module. If you set them aside in a special place in a room or a shelf or a closet, whatever, and you're not going to count them, then you don't want to include those items in your quantity when you're doing a physical count. There's also choices to use the last cost or the average cost of the item when you're figuring the costs from a variance. And if you're scanning items or you're bringing in a file, there's a merge same items parameter. This will allow you, say you have items in couple areas of the store that may be counted separately. It allows you to merge those quantities together. There's a great feature in Keystroke called Autofill that can fill all of your inventory items or a portion of them based on a search criteria that I'm going to show you. And so both of these, the parameters and the autofill, you're going to become pretty familiar with once you start doing a variance. As you're doing a variance, you can post it or save it. Saving it just saves what you've done, does not change at all any of your quantities in Keystroke, just allows you to save things as you go along, so just in case something happens. Posting the variance, on the other hand, is what actually will change your quantities in the Keystroke program. And there are some things that you may see when you post a variance. If you have an item on your variance, but you haven't put something in the physical count column, Keystroke will ask you, what do you want to do with these? You can remove them from the variance, you can set those items to 0, or you can just leave those items blank. It's kind of up to you. So we're going to go into Keystroke now, and I'm going to show you this how the variance works. So we're in Database Manager. You can see that by the lower right-hand corner of your screen. We're in Databases. To access Variance, you go to the Special menu and Variance. It's going to ask you for a session ID number. That's usually taken from the register number assigned to this session of Keystroke, which by default is register 1 if you don't assign register numbers. And it's going to create a file called var1.dat. This is your unposted variance in progress. So once you start your session, you're going to have a blank variance. Let's take a look at the parameters. You can choose what you want your entry field to be. It's all of our indexed fields. I'm going to change mine to stock number just because I know the stock numbers that Keystroke uses more than I know product codes. I'm going to choose to include my quantity allocated and my quantity on layaway in my quantity on hand. You can choose to use last cost. If you don't check this box, it's going to use the average cost on the inventory record. But if you check this, the costs that you see in the variance are going to be the last cost. You can also default the physical quantity to 1. This is great when you're going around the store. Maybe you have Keystroke loaded on a tablet with a barcode scanner, and you're scanning every single item in your store. So if you've got 5 of something sitting on the shelf, you're going to scan each one of them. And as you scan, it's going to put in, the first time you scan, it's going to put that item with the number, with the 1 in the physical quantity. The next time it's going to change it to 2, 3, etc. Confirm physical quantity is when you're manually entering just a few items. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to go count the top shelf on the north wall. And you're going to go out and count them, write it down, come back to Keystroke, enter those items individually. Confirm physical quantity says it's going to stop at that quantity field before you enter another item. You can also confirm the variance quantity, and I'm going to kind of get into a little bit in a moment on the difference between the physical quantity and the variance quantity. You can also, if you have serialized items, you can disable serial numbers, which means it doesn't matter what Keystroke has for all the serial numbers for these items. It's not going to care. Say Keystroke thinks you have 10 items, you go out and you count 9 of them. If you disable serial numbers, it's just going to let you post that without any question. If you have serial numbers and you count 9, but Keystroke says you have 10, it may give you a message. Well, you either don't have enough serial numbers or you have too many serial numbers to match those items. Obviously, if you don't have serialized items, it's not a big issue. You can also choose to post items with a 0 variance. 0 variance means that you count the items, and what you count is exactly the same as what Keystroke says you have. Keystroke says you have 12, you go out and you count 12. Well, if you choose, and I recommend to do this, checking post items with 0 variance, because then at least you have a record that on this day, the day you do the variance and you posted it, that you actually counted this item and it matched. And so your variance, or the difference between what you counted and what Keystroke thinks you have, is 0. The merge same items is a great feature if you're scanning or if you've got items in other areas of the store. You have quite a few choices here on the merge same items. You can choose to have Keystroke display a message and edit line. Edit line means it goes to that line where the item's already entered. It can not display a message and go to that line. It can display a message and it'll merge the lines. So if you have, a list, if your variance is filled with hundreds of items and you're entering physical quantity from count sheets, rather than trying to find the item on the variance, hundreds of lines, you enter it on the bottom of the variance and you enter a quantity. And what Keystroke's going to do, if that line's already there, it's going to take your physical count that you just entered and it can merge that with the physical count already entered on another line. And you can choose to have that with a message or no message, where it's going to automatically go, and somebody counted 5 in this location, you get another count sheet, and they counted 10 in another location, it's going to merge those together. And then there's the last one is no message and no beep. These others are going to beep for you, give you an auditory clue as well as a visual cue of what's going on. We're just going to leave it as is for right now. And then, like a lot of areas of Keystroke, there you have choices of your detail box. So we're going to pretend like we're going to do a full inventory count. See this field up here where I just put my cursor, variance? That's where you can put a reason or a title for this variance. So I'm going to do a full inventory count. And of course I can't type very well. And rather than manually entering each and every item, it's going to be easiest for me to do an autofill. Go up to the special menu and choose autofill. If you've ever done any search and replace or search and hide functions in the database manager, this works very similarly. Only you're just going to have a search screen. You can see you're in search mode right here. If I want to enter every single item in my system, you could just hit F10 here with no search criteria, and it's going to enter every item. Now notice here by default for bulk and service items there's a 0. Now those are check boxes on the inventory record, but generally bulk and service items you may not track your quantity on hand, thus you're not going to count them. So we're not going to have those items as part of the criteria. For example, if I would change my service item to 1, it would enter my service items. I know I've got service items like the gift card line item and that sort of thing. I don't count those, so we're just going to leave it at 0. Since I'm doing a full inventory count, I'm going to hit just F10 here to tell it I'm finished with my search criteria. Comes and says autofill complete. It's added 127 lines and 12 service items have been skipped. So here's all my items, and notice it says this is what Keystroke says I have. That's the quantity on hand. Remember, depending on your parameters, that may or may not include a quantity allocated or a quantity on layaway. Now, a lot of people like to use data collectors. They're wonderful devices. You can go out and just scan the items on your shelf, or scan each one individually, or scan them and put in a quantity. So you can import, if you have a file, or if you get a file from a data collector, you can import these items into the physical quantity field. And that's under the special menu and import file. Now, at this point, I want to give you, show you our help files for the variance. There's a great little help file here. The variance module basics, there's a lot of things here, but I want to point to you the step-by-step instructions. This gives you a good thing to look over when you're doing a full inventory count. Really important on the variance that you have no stock movement between the times the item is entered in the variance, just like I did here with the autofill, and the time you count the items. You don't necessarily have to put the quantities on the physical quantity in your variance screen, but you're going to get the most accurate count if you don't have stock movement. So some stores do it if they're not open 7 days a week. They may do it on a day that they're not normally open. They may do it overnight when the store is closed. But this step-by-step instructions, I'm not going to go through everything here, but it's a great resource for, okay, I've not done this before. Well, let's take a look at this. Let's think about how we want to do it. So please use this as a reference if you need to. Let's go back to Keystroke. Now, remember when I was saying in Keystroke, I've entered all my items. And if you're just doing a manual count, somebody has count sheets, which you can print a count sheet as a report in Database Manager or in Report Manager. If you have any questions on that, let us know, let me know, and I can help you with that. But so now somebody's sitting at the computer and entering quantities. Well, I don't want to have to go up and down through my list to find things. So I'm going to look at my sheet and I'm going to go, okay, this item was stock number 15. And lo and behold, because of my merge same items, the way I set it, this item has already been entered on line 113. If I hit OK, it finds my item. This is stock number 15. Keystroke says I have 25 of them, but I actually only have 22. Great. And I can hit enter and it'll go all the way back to the bottom. So now I've got this item. Ah, there we go. Here it is. Keystroke says I have 25. I actually have 24. And you can continue on, manually entering your items. Or as I said with the data collector, you can import a file. The file format's important. Data collectors can be programmed to do all kinds of things. Keystroke only reads the first two fields when you import a file. You might get a file that has all kinds of fields, like the stock number, the product code, the quantity, the description, etc., etc. The first two fields are the most important. The first field in the file you import must be your entry field, whether it's stock number, product code, something like that. The second field is your actual physical count of what you counted. Any field after that, even if it's in the import file, Keystroke's going to ignore. Now, I'm not going to go through here and put quantities and everything, but let me just pick a few more items here, and I have this many, I have this many here, I have this many here. Now, when you're doing a full inventory count, if you're out of stock on an item, even if you do with a data collector or manual count, obviously you can't count an item if you're out of stock. So Keystroke may say that you have 10 of an item or something like that, or here 5 of this item, but you haven't counted it. So if you import it or you have blanks in your physical column, you may get a message. Well, we're just going to save this first. Remember I said there was post and save. F10 will get you to this posting and saving, or you can clear it. Obviously, I don't want to clear it. If you're working on this for a while, or if you need to step away from your desk, maybe every 10 minutes or so, you want to save this. If the power goes out or something like that, you don't want to have lost all of that work. So I just saved my variance. Okay, so now I think I've entered all my quantities. I'm going to hit F10. Now I want to post it. When I choose post, you get this unconfirmed line items message only if you have items on the variance that have not been confirmed, or the physical quantity is blank. Gives you choices, and it's a great way so that, okay, I've counted everything, but there's still items that are blank. Maybe I want to set everything that doesn't have a quantity to 0. That means they don't exist. I can remove these items because maybe I thought I was going to count everything, but I didn't. So I just want to remove those items, take them out of there. These are just the ones I've counted. I can also leave it blank. The variance, it's kind of cool. If you leave this blank and post it, it will not change your quantity on hands, but what it is, it's a record of at the time you posted this variance, this is what Keystroke says I have. Just like an inventory database report, but you don't have to keep track of a piece of paper or a file that you printed your database report to. You can see what Keystroke thinks you have at the time. I'm going to do that in this case. I'm just going to leave it blank. Excuse me. So, Keystroke gives you a message. Items that were not confirmed will be saved, but the inventory items will not be changed. I can hit OK here, or I can cancel. I'm going to hit OK. It proceeded to post my variance. Now, if you find out later, once you've posted a variance, that something got missed or I need to adjust it, you can always go back and edit the variance. Here's the variance I did. I'm going to bring it up to edit. And, oh yeah, I did have this item. So I have 6 of these, and I have 92 of these. You can go back and change quantities. I can decide, okay, on my book down here that I didn't count, hey, I actually found 2 of them. You can go back, edit it, and you can post it again. You can't save it because you're editing a saved variance, so or a posted variance, so your only choice is to post it. Again, you're going to get your unconfirmed line items message. I'm going to leave it blank, and I am going to proceed to post. Okay. Quick review, and then I'm going to open this up for questions. Variance is a powerful tool to keep track of how your quantities of your inventory have changed because you're doing an actual count. Unfortunately, there is loss a lot of times in most types of businesses, theft, breakage, spoilage, and you just want to make sure that what you think you have, you do have. It's great for insurance purposes, for tax purposes, etc. Also gives you a trail, or a paper trail, or a record. It can link to your accounting program, which would say basically, I counted all this stuff and the value of my inventory went down, or in some cases maybe went up. Always, please look at the parameters. Make sure those are set appropriately for your business. Keystroke makes it easy to put items on your variance with the autofill function. You could say just do one department, in which case on your variance in your title field you can say I'm counting the book department, or I'm counting my gift department, or I'm counting my software department. And save along the way, and Keystroke allows you to post things as we go along.